Hello, everybody, and welcome to Kick Conflict to the Curb, the place where department managers, HR leaders, and growth minded people come to learn some of the newest strategies on communication and conflict resolution. I'm your host, Joyce Weiss, the queen of conflict resolution, and I support department heads and HR professionals to inspire and educate their employees who are tired of feeling invisible and silenced so they can confidently use their voice without losing their cool and their input is respected and their expertise is taken seriously. So there's 3 or 4 ways people can work with me to reduce conflict. Either the leader can work with me so I can help them with their direct reports. We can have the leader and the direct report so there's input from everybody. That's actually the most successful way. Or the leaders can send me their direct reports who just need to be have a little bit more continuous education or a facilitation. I people invite me to do a small group facilitation. I have some important information about costly conflict because that's what today's show is about. And this, like I said before, all HR and department heads need to do is to support their employees so they feel heard. That doesn't sound very big, does it? Well, trust me, it is. And I am going to quote something that is on my website, joyceweiss.com. This one idea of helping people feel heard and not silenced is going to help unresolved conflict, which costs, and here you go for some facts, the US companies $359 billion annually, which comes up to about 2.5 hours per week are spent trying to unsuccessfully resolve conflict. It doesn't have to be that way. And I know that I do what I do as a communication coach because so many of my clients share how they don't feel heard. And all they want to do is confidently use their voice so they're taken seriously. Well, I know that there are some um, leaders who really get it. And they know that continuous improvement is part of their career forever. And it's hard to ask for help sometimes. And they know that whether it's coaching or whether it's taking online courses, they know that continuous improvement, especially in dealing with conflict and communication, is not only important for them, but for their entire team. And the result is when these successful leaders take on the challenge of looking for these opportunities, is they figure out on their own how to include employees to make them feel safe, whether it's weekly or monthly meetings. There's no magic here. This stuff works. But we need to talk about the truth. The reality is there are many leaders. And for those of you who are watching right now, if you're shaking your head yes after I make this statement, who they don't understand that when they tell people what to do or their approaches using fear, this stuff doesn't work. They think that their leadership is good and it's working. All they have to do is ask their team and they'll get the reality. But because they're insecure, they're not humble, they don't have the courage, and they're closed, they're never going to learn this. Well, in 1921, McKinsey study interviewed managers and said, why do you think your employees are leaving? And most of you have probably heard this. They say, oh, it's because they want more money. Well, when they ask the employees, they say it's because of relationships. They didn't feel recognized. Does this sound familiar? By their managers, they didn't feel seen. Well, before I invite our guest on, I'd like to close with Bernard Shaw's quote, playwright Bernard Shaw. The worst sin towards our fellow creatures is not to hate them, but to be indifferent to them. Think about that while I introduce our guest. With almost 20 years in the healthcare field, Brittany Anderlie has worked in different settings and capacities. These experiences have allowed her to look at teams holistically. She currently works as a practice administrator for an oculoplastic surgeon, creating an intentional growth plan for the business. Brittany is a mom to a wonderfully strong-willed 14-month-old. Becoming a mother after being a workaholic put life into perspective for her. She learned how to become an intentional leader. Here's a fun fact about Brittany. She loves to write music and sing. Welcome to the show. Kick conflict to the curb, Brittany.
Thank you, Joyce. So great to be back.
Oh, I didn't say that, folks, that this is the second return for Brittany, and it ain't going to be over. I mean, Brittany, yes, you love writing songs. Well, I want you to sing a song. Not really. Don't worry. To sing a song in your own spirit of why you called me, what you wanted to do, intentionally do on this program.
Yes. So interestingly enough, after our last session together, I had somebody reach out to me on LinkedIn and asked if we ever would consider interviewing people and taking their real life experience as an employee or as a manager and applying some of your strategies to show managers they do work. And it's not something that's just promoted across the board. It's not like I'm myself going around preaching being intentional, but yet not being intentional, things like that of that nature. So I had an employee reach out to me with a bit of an interesting case, and I thought this was perfect because the employer missed the mark by not communicating. Had they communicated, they would have had a very different outcome.
And I just, do you see, viewers, why she's back? Because you care so much about this. Just so you know, I don't have a green room. I have a blue and red room. When we were in the blue and red room, I asked Brittany, what is your real motivation for doing this, your intentional communication? And Brittany, you speak from your heart, so you are singing your song. So let's get right into it because first of all, so everybody knows, the employee, we called her Evian Employee. She was going to be here. She doesn't have a voice today. I don't mean that she can't speak. She really, literally does not have a voice. Do you agree? I am speaking the truth, correct, Brittany?
Yes.
Yes. So we're going to do a different way that I am going to ask Brittany, why don't you start out with one of the poor communication skills that the managers, leaders used with Evian, and then I will share some strategies that he or she could have used.
Sure. So Evian was taking an FMLA leave. The FMLA leave, the notice for that leave was provided at least 8 months in advance. And then the communication leading up to that was bare minimum at best. I think the part where she tried to reach out to her manager, she tried to reach out to her HR director and say, can we set up a meeting? Can we chat about these things? What's the process going to be for who's going to be doing these tasks or monitoring my buckets and things like that? And it seemed very hard for her to get a meeting on the books. We'll start with that.
Okay, that's a great way to start. So, for those of you who are leaders or who want to be leaders, one of the main things that the first thing I would suggest is to say something to your employee so they feel heard and understood. And don't speak your truth, but actually start asking curiosity questions, of which I will be sharing with you with Brittany, before you speak your truth. So, a good way to start is to say, hey, employee, I heard you say that you're having a tough time reaching some of the leaders, to express your concern about you being a good employee and leaving for your maternity leave very intentionally to make sure that everything goes smoothly. Is this the issue? Is this what you meant? Would that have helped, Brittany, just to start it off like that?
Absolutely. I think by avoiding it or not answering the employee, I feel like the message was that you're not valued. And it did not give that employee a sense of security.
Absolutely. And another good way after that's what you just said is what happened. Now, as we rewind, another strategy would be to ask, what do you need from me at this point? How do you see it? Now, I'm going to say something that may sound tough, and I am being tough, is that every single employee who's listening, it's your responsibility to express your concerns and ideas. Don't be afraid. You got to ask, what is the worst thing that's going to happen if I do voice my concerns, especially when you do have a leader who does open up saying, hey, is this the issue? How can we help? Brittany, tell me what you think about employees, how it's their responsibility in this matter also. We can't just point the fingers at the poor leaders. Please
No,
respond.
I don't disagree. I think that communication is a two-way street and it takes two people to have that conversation. I do think that it's difficult maybe for some employees when they already feel insecure in their job or they're feeling insecure in their environment in general. Um, I think it's harder for them to keep pushing. If I've already reached out, if I've already done this, then at what point is this not on me anymore? I've done everything that I can do. And I think the leaders also do feel the same way. I feel like some leaders feel like I did communicate, I did reach back out, I did circle back.
Mhm.
But you're not asking then why is this employee continuing to reach out? Like there's a disconnect.
And talk more about this disconnect, not about the successful or the powerful and positive leaders. I'm talking about the ones probably who Evian spoke with. For those of watching, I'm sure you've experienced or maybe are experienced poor leaders. So, what is the disconnect, and what could how could they look in the mirror and ask themselves some powerful questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think the follow-up, coming up to Evian's leave ending, and, it almost seemed like from her perspective that they were scrambling, like, "Oh, your job's now been displaced in a sense. We have other people doing these tasks now. There's really no need for you." And then coming back and saying, "Oh, but here's a different job, completely 110% different than what you're currently doing. Oh, but then wait, here's another job, and then here, oh, I didn't really have approval to offer that. Here's another opportunity." So when from an employee perspective, one, you're scrambling, it almost appears like you feel like you messed up or you let that employee down because now you're just continuously coming up with different offers. That's just creating a lot of confusion. It actually creates more, I would say, hostility in a sense.
Oh,
You're
for sure.
you're making somebody feel like they're not valued at all. Like I feel like on if that really truly did happen, I feel like the HR is supposed to be the moral compass for a company, and they really missed the mark.
Yes. And remember what I said at the beginning. Of course, I said a lot of things at the beginning. Is that first you have to ask the curiosity questions. So when the poor communication went, well, this is what we can give you. Oh no, this is what, and it kept on changing and changing. And what I understand is the boss ended up not coming to a meeting that was planned. So the whole thing just went sour. There's no doubt. The whole, I really feel for Evian because she really wanted to take care of this before she left on her maternity leave.
Yeah.
And there were roadblocks. And yes, she voiced her concern. Perfect example, but she was still ignored. So to rewind, what leaders can do is ask after they said, well, listen, your job isn't going to be this, it's going to be this, to ask, what are your thoughts about this? What is one small action that would make this easy? How can I help? And if we had, okay, I'm going to pretend you're Evian. Oh boy, am I going to push you. Aren't you glad that you called me, Brittany?
Oh, yes.
What would you say? Let's say you are Evian and you were just told that your job is going to be different. It's your responsibility to say something. What would you say if you were Evian to this leader?
I would say like that's not the right fit for me. I am not going to accept that position, and I think we probably need to look at some of the FMLA laws and see what a comparable position actually is defined as. But that's me and my background, and I feel that most employees are in the same boat as Evian, where they don't know that they don't work in
No,
HR.
no,
That's not their forte, right?
no.
That's why we have HR departments in the company to help educate employees.
Yes,
But we miss the mark when we don't take that initiative to educate our employees. That employee should have been educated prior to leave. Here's what you can expect. I think what happens here, though, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
I
what
will.
happens is that leaders and HR departments, they get very clammed up when they feel like they don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm going to do with this position. So if it's a business critical position, let's say, and you had to replace it. I mean, you can't have two people doing the same job, right?
Mhm.
It's not economical for the company. But at the end of the day, there should have been conversations, but people just, I don't feel are comfortable enough in their own skin to have realistic conversations with employees of what the landscape's going to look like.
Correct. And that's when, like I said in the beginning, that intentional leaders know that they do need to ask for help. How do I get better as a leader? How do I communicate better? Even though they may be great, and I know you believe in this, and I just signed up for another coaching class. I've been a coach for over 30 years. I'm never going to be there. I don't want to be there because this sharpens our sword. So leaders need to be comfortable with the fact that they don't have all the answers. That's humility. The successful leaders know, and they do get coaching either for themselves or for their direct reports, or ideally for everyone, so that together they can take off their blind spots and realize, wow, I communicate like this. I didn't know that. We all, even you, Brittany, we all
Mhm.
have blind spots. So tell me what you've seen with coaching and either with some of the leaders that you deal with, how it helps.
It's interesting. Up until about probably 2 years ago, I would have told you I was that leader. I was that leader
Ooh,
that I was very task driven. I was very project driven, and those were my focuses. And so to have an employee come to me with maybe something, a time off request or something like that, I would have probably looked at them and said, like, my face probably would have said it all. Why are you wasting my time with this? This could be an email. But then again, now I take the time in my mind to step back and say, okay, this employee's coming to my door to have a conversation with me. There's got to be more to this than just a request. So now we start to have more empathy to the person that's standing in your door, and not assuming that everybody is stupid for coming to your door. I was very guilty of that. I'm not going to stand on a podium and say that I was a perfect leader, or I am a perfect leader. By far, I'm not. I have a long way to go. But I think understanding your opportunities of improvement it's crucial.
It's crucial, and you are a leader with humility. You looked in the mirror and you said, I don't have all the answers. You saw that, I don't know necessarily what to do, but I know I don't like it. So right. Hats off to you. And trust me, I learned when I was a keynote speaker, of which I'm not anymore. I am only a coach, a communication coach and facilitator. I learned when I stopped speaking and let the audience participate in small group discussion, my evaluations went higher. Ouch, that hurt. I had all the PowerPoint slides and I had all my stories memorized. And that's one of the reasons why I got out of speaking. And I said, oh, I like this. I like the fact that I can zip up my lip, give some good curiosity questions to the audience, and they really change because of that. So yay. Now, I just need to tell before we end this great discussion that for those of you watching live, or if you're watching this later, I have something that I'd be very happy and send to you. All you have to do is send me your email at Joyce@joyceweiss.com, and it's called Questions to Ask During Conflict. And it's going to be the questions that Brittany and I discussed, and something like effective communication is what they hear, not what you say. If you don't speak up, you're part of the problem. And oh my God, so many. I've got questions to ask during conflict and 12 discussion questions to ask during conflict. Again, all you have to do is send me an email, say, I want that, and you will get that from me. Well, Brittany, I want to thank you. Do you have any final thoughts that you would like to say before? And I am going to invite you back again. So just don't take a break.
I always have something to say about communication. So I will say this. I didn't want to start off with bringing an employee in to make leaders or HR departments feel bad about themselves, but I do want everyone in that role to understand that you have the opportunities that you do have, and start capturing those opportunities. Don't let an opportunity pass you by when it comes to communication, because there's no such thing as over communicating. So that's my soapbox today.
I love your soapbox. Please get on your soapbox and sing your song anytime. Well, thank you so much for coming back, and I appreciate your brain.
Thanks, Joyce.
Well, I sure hope that you enjoyed yourself as much as I did. I know I always learn from my guests, especially from Brittany. And if you are tired of dreading those tough conversations and you want to feel more confident using your voice, all you have to do is sign up for a Jam with Joyce session. It's complimentary. Again, you could go to joyceweiss.com and I will send you a link. And what you will get is you will experience more enjoyment of work because the drama will be reduced. You'll no longer feel invisible. Instead, your input is going to be recognized and I look forward to doing this with you. And I know that all you have to do, again, if you want to get that questions to ask during conflict, send me an email. I appreciate you coming in and watching. And until next time, I'm Joyce Weiss, communication coach. No, Queen is conflict resolution. And I look forward to our next show.